Just because the information is accessible to the public doesn't mean the government wants you to find out about it. It's been quite clear that the government will do whatever it takes to put their stranglehold on planet Earth. Whether it's sabotaging politically unstable countries or a secret plan to invade Canada, here are things the government doesn't want you to know. Number 10. Broken arrows. Nuclear weapons are built in order to obliterate an entire area, but the Cold War got to the point where missiles were constantly being transported on a daily basis. The objective of the US Global Strike Command Force was to always have a nuke on board a B-52 bomber. This would allow the commander-in-chief to coordinate an attack on a specific target without such a long wait. If tensions with a certain country were getting kind of tense, or if they felt like testing out some new equipment in a different part of the world, they could. But not every pilot is perfect, and accidents do happen. The airplane might run out of fuel, causing it to crash with its nuclear cargo on board. According to David G. Jackson, former public affairs officer, there have been 52 accidents or weapons that have gone missing just from the US. These have been referred to as broken arrows. In one case, a fighter plane carrying a nuclear simply rolled off the edge of the aircraft carrier. They never found it again. In 1969, it's believed that an American nuclear submarine called Gato collided with a Soviet ship very close to their border in the White Sea. Many of them have been simply melted from fire due to the planes crashing, making it difficult to contain contamination. Number 9. Guatemalan Coup d'etat. During the invasion of Iraq, we claimed that dictators were bad and they shouldn't be in power. But what they were really trying to say was, dictators are okay as long as they're one of our puppets. One of the events in history our modern government would probably like to forget about was during the Guatemalan Coup d'etat, which was carried out by the CIA. In 1944, Guatemala became a democratic country with an elected leader. Jacobo Arbenz was victorious during an open election and sought to return a vast amount of private land over to lower-class workers. Sounds kinda like communism, right? This didn't bode well for our government, who had connections with the United Fruit Company, a corporation who owned a large amount of land there, primarily used for harvesting bananas. The CIA set up a fake radio station that was anti-Arbenz and stirred up some serious drama. Operation PB Success took place in order to remove Jacobo Arbenz from office, and there was even a bomb dropped on Guatemala City. This was to convince them that the uprising needed to take place. Long story short, the CIA uses psychological warfare and propaganda to convince the people to overthrow him so we could keep our bananas. A ruthless leader took his place who was pro-US, and Jacobo was forced into exile in Mexico City, where he'd spend the rest of his life. Number 8. It took an army to take down Che. Jacobo's ideas would not go unnoticed by the people of South America, and a young revolutionary by the name of Ernesto Guevara, aka Che from Argentina, would attempt to change the world. While touring South America, he began to feel anti-American sentiment after seeing how US could profit from other people's land without giving them a fair cut. After inspiration from Guatemala, he met another revolutionary by the name of Fidel Castro in Mexico City, who wanted to overthrow the Cuban government that was loyal to the Americans at the time. Che and Castro united guerrilla forces under their revolutionary ideas in the Sierra Maestra Mountains of Cuba, and slowly but surely, they managed to overthrow Batista's government. They learned from the coup d'etat in Nicaragua that freedom of the press needed to be eliminated for their regime to work. Fidel was gaining a lot of power, and the CIA noticed. Che abandoned Cuba once Fidel began working with the Soviets, and he attempted to spread communism to other countries. Known to be a brutal and elusive revolutionary fighter, the US government and Bolivia collaborated to hunt him down and take him out. But this would require a force of over 800 US-backed Bolivian soldiers, the CIA, and Green Berets. He was finally captured after being wounded in battle. Orders from the Pentagon said to take him out. It reportedly took several shots with a rifle to bring his demise, and a martyr was born. Number 7. Canada isn't safe. In 1921, the US was getting a little bit fed up with the British government for not paying back their debts from the World War. Great Britain didn't think they really had to pay back the money we lent them, and it was beginning to seem like it was just a matter of time before manifest destiny took its toll and the northern part of the continent was ours. Canada thought we were going to invade them as a way to get even for not paying, and they were sort of right. We devised what was known as War Plan Red, which were detailed invasion plans on our neighbors to the north. This included forces from northern New York invading French Canada, cutting off reinforcements in Winnipeg, naval blockades in Halifax, and so on. Canada was suspicious of us this entire time as well, and they had their own plans, which was basically grabbing their hockey sticks to fight us off until the British provided backup. Luckily, the war never happened, and after Canada provided help during World War II, they were pardoned for their debts. You guys are safe this time, Canada, but next time you owe us money, y'all better pay up. Number 6. The Witness Protection City. Although a war never broke out, there have been quite a few territorial disputes with Canada and the US. You can see how land was broken up in a bizarre fashion in the northwestern Pacific, and if you take a look at this place, known as Point Roberts, south of Vancouver, you can get an idea. If for some reason you had to go to this isolated little peninsula, you would have to go through Border Patrol in Canada, then once again in the US. So safe to say, it's pretty secure, and it turns out to be a great place for our government to set up witness protection programs. On Google Earth, you can explore so many different places, but mysteriously, this little US exclave is a no-go zone. The Witness Protection Program was set up in order to provide protection to people who have come forward or testified about illegal activities and would be a target from dangerous criminals after the trial was over. It hasn't been 100% confirmed, but this appears to be a snitch's paradise. Number 5. The Bay of Pigs failure. Okay, back to La Revolución Cubana. The CIA and the government weren't just going to sit by and let a revolution take place. They took action, but not directly. Fidel Castro had to get past quite a few obstacles to have full control over the country and to impose Western imperialism. In order to not seem like they were the ones who invaded, the US built and trained an army to invade the Bay of Pigs, located about 93 miles from Havana. A force of 1,800 men were sent to overthrow the government, but failed epically. The amateur group of mercenaries were recruited in a similar fashion as Scarface once waves of Cuban immigrants arrived to Miami. Deals were made with the government with these refugees who agreed to get trained in Central America and then invade Cuba. This would make it appear as though the counter-revolution was taking place from former Cuban citizens and not CIA-funded paramilitary soldiers. In any case, Fidel Castro found out, quickly squashed the puny force, and now everyone began to figure out that our government was behind it the whole time. Long story short though, the president didn't use the entire force the CIA had recommended, which required about twice as many men and more air and naval power. Number 4. They conspire with the Mafia. By no means was the Bay of Pigs the last attempt to overthrow the government of Cuba. The US government will resort to assassination attempts, and they were looking for the guys who knew what they were doing. The CIA couldn't do it themselves, so they tried hiring a successor of Al Capone, San Giancana, for $1.2 million if they can get rid of Castro. This was a guy who used to be on their top 10 most wanted list, and the CIA is calling him for a job interview. Another attempt involving a diving suit with contamination from some type of classified fungus also took place. Don't forget about the attempt with exploding cigars with botulinum toxin. There was also some other cases that involved psychedelic substances, syringes hidden in pens, and other attempts that all seemed quite bizarre. Number 3. The Bayonet Constitution. Have you ever thought about how Hawaii actually became a state? Full western expansion had taken place, but missionaries continued to head west, constructing settlements in Hawaii. They realized that sugar crops were getting pretty prosperous, and US politics got involved. In 1887, the US brings military troops and forces the Queen of Hawaii to sign a constitution that the people could now vote on who they wanted in charge. Guess who won the election? Democracy. Before it officially became a state, it was declared as an American territory. Number 2. Flying saucers. In 1949, a U.S. government document was released with a subject of flying saucers from Army Sergeant Clifford Stone. He stated a few facts about these sightings, claiming that there was very little possibility that they were from weather balloons or anything the U.S. is capable of creating. The odds of these being foreign-built aircrafts are very slim due to the range that they would need to fly. Guided aircraft at that time of several thousand miles away is too far advanced for the U.S. Air Force and any known technology at that time. He seems to be completely baffled by the witness testimonies and doesn't even know what to believe. There have been many crazy reports on the CIA's website about crashed flying saucers in people's backyards. We also shouldn't forget to mention that the CIA was given very specific requirements about how to investigate a UFO. A few steps included examining witnesses, documentation, discouraging false reporting, and gathering physical evidence. Some people believe that those sent to investigate the extraterrestrial aircraft are indeed the same type of creatures that are flying one. And number 1, their zombie apocalypse plan. If you guys seriously haven't read the official government strategy in case of a zombie apocalypse, I urge that you do immediately. It's known as Con Plan Counter Zombie Dominance. If there's one thing that the government is difficult to criticize about, it's their well-formatted doomsday scenario, apocalyptic mayhem, and how to save humanity. Not only do they discuss the different types of zombies who are capable of wreaking total havoc, just so you know for sure, they start off by telling you that this is serious and not a joke. They then begin to break down how the zombie apocalypse is actually possible. Some of the steps the military would take to wipe out zombies include day-to-day operations with further train in combat in toxic locations. They would also do their best to secure infrastructures that provide clean water, sewage systems, and communication systems.